Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call to order this Pierce County Council meeting in our Tuesday study session. It is Tuesday, October 29th, 2024. The time is 12:02 p.m. We have all members present. That brings us to item number 2, which is the review of today's council meeting agenda. Ms. Long, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you. This is this afternoon's regular council meeting agenda. It is amended. We'll start off with your consent agenda. You have 4 ordinances for introduction and scheduling today. The first is O 2024-503, and this is vacating a portion of Lake Bay Dock Road Southwest. You'll be setting the final on this one for December 17th. The next is O 2024-555. This is adopting the 2024 Pierce County Behavioral Health Improvement Plan update. You'll be referring this to Health and Human Services and setting the final on this for December 17th. The third is O 2024-556. This is amending section 4A30.030 of the code. This is the school impact fee schedule to adjust school impact fees for 2025. And this is for referral to rules. You'll be setting the final on this one for November 19th. And the fourth ordinance for introduction and scheduling is O 2024-559. And this is the comprehensive plan periodic update. You'll be referring this to CPC and setting the final for December 3rd. Moving down to your final action items, you have 2 resolutions here. First up is our 2024-236, and this is confirming the appointment of a new member to the Pierce County Flood Control Zone District Advisory Committee. And the other has been added, you can see, is our 2024-238. This is confirming the appointment of a new member to the Pierce County Arts Commission. There is one grant, and this is pending review, your review later during this study session today. And that is a Washington State Department of Commerce Connecting Housing to Infrastructure program. That's through Human Services. So I believe Rebecca will be discussing that in a moment. There is one other addition that you'll notice under E, and that is a motion approving a settlement. And this is in the matter of Canyon Properties versus Pierce County. I think you're all familiar with that one. And then you'll also see under other items, a motion to authorize finance to pay $110,184 for dues for WASAC. And then you'll see the addition of a certified budget. You'll be seeing these on a regular basis through the end of the year. So moving now to section 7, proclamations, recognitions, awards, and presentations. You have 1 proclamation and 1 presentation today. The proclamation is one of the council and executive proclaiming November 2024 as Native American and Alaska Native Heritage Month in Pierce County. And this was requested by council members Campbell and Herrera. So if you could select a reader for today.
I believe that's me.
Mr. Campbell.
Okay, thank you. And then next up, we have a presentation by Auditor Farmer, and that is securing the 2024 general election and critical administrative updates. You have quite a number of resolutions today. These are all quite similar. The Rules Committee is very familiar with these. But for the rest of you, I'll review these generally. So we have our 2024, 2021 through 2026. These are all authorizing the executive to execute interlocal agreements between Pierce County and certain cities and towns in the county for specialized law enforcement services. All of the ones on today's council agenda received due pass recommendations at Rules on October 21st. So I'll go through these quickly. The first is 2021. That is with the city of Fircrest. Next is 2022. This is with the city of Gig Harbor. Next is 2023. That is with the city of Ruston. We have 2024 is with the town of Eatonville. 2025 is with the city of Roy. And finally, we have 2026, which is with the town of South Prairie. And those are all of your agenda items for this afternoon's regular meeting.
Thank you. Before we get to the grant authorization request that's on the agenda, are there any questions or comments about today's council meeting agenda? Okay, Ms. Chapman, you're gonna brief on a request to submit a grant to the Washington State Department of Commerce.
Yes, thank you, Chair Rebecca Chapman, council staff. You have before you today a grant application for the Connecting Housing to Infrastructure Program, or CHIP, for water, sewer, and stormwater for affordable housing. This competitive grant is being issued by the Washington State Department of Commerce. Pierce County Human Services is applying for $2 million to support the cost to extend sewer services to 100 affordable housing units for Phase 1A in the Good Neighbor Village. The application that you have says 50 units, but they will be applying for 100 affordable housing units. The duration of the funding would be for 29 months, and there is no match required from the county. Trish Crocker, the grant coordinator, is here from Human Services to assist with questions, and we also have Director Moss available.
Thank you. Welcome. How are you, Ms. Crocker?
I'm doing well, thank you. What questions might you have?
What questions do council members have about this grant request? Councilmember Hitchin.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for being here to kind of answer any questions that might come up. My curiosity is around the timing of this grant, and we know that this project has been taking a little bit longer than anticipated. So just, does the timing of this work and what happens to the proposed work if things don't roll out the way they are proposed currently for the village?
So it is my understanding that construction is beginning within the next 3 weeks because there are no legal recourses because the appeal bond was not posted by the appellates. So the plan is that I have a timeline here for this is for the sewer connection for the first 100 units of the project. Certificate of occupancy in this grant is expected December 2025 for these 100 units.
Okay, thank you. And then I guess my second question, and maybe staff or Ms. Crocker at a later date or via email, I don't remember the sewer connection being this expensive in the original proposal that we voted on, it seems like forever ago. I feel like it was like 600,000 and I remember questioning that. It just, the number didn't seem to be 2 million. So I'm just curious if someone can find out what originally was proposed for the sewer work for the project. Don't need it today and don't need it to vote on this. Just, I'm curious because the numbers don't seem to jog for me. So thank you.
Thank you for that request. Councilmember Morel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question revolves around, is this a reimbursable grant or just a lump sum grant for the funding?
I do not know if it's based on reimbursement or if we would be able to give it to them upfront. I will get that to you. I don't have that at this moment, but I can get that to you before 3 o'clock today.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Campbell.
Thank you. And Councilmember Hitchin touched on what I was thinking, which was when this was initially proposed, we were given a far smaller number for the sewers, I seem to recall. This is for the first 100 homes, 2 million for the first 100. Do we have a funding plan for the additional homes there, or is that something that's likely going to fall back to the county then to come up with an additional, over 300 homes, so another $4 million?
It is my understanding, and I am not an engineer on this, that this is the infrastructure that will connect all of the 100 units directly and also provide the stubs, I think is what you call it, for the additional 100 and actually 285 total are planned. 250 of them are for residents. The others are for volunteer on-site volunteer units. So that it may be why the expense is higher is because it's laying out for it's directly connecting the 100 housing units, and then it's also doing the part that has to get it to the street for all of the units, is my understanding.
If we could get it confirmed that this would fully complete the sewer build out to the site, that no additional, if we could just double check and get that confirmed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for those requests. Any other questions or comments? Thank you for following up with the request that members made. This will appear on today's regular meeting agenda for consideration. Thank you. Nothing else for today's council meeting agenda. We're at item number 3, which includes the review of the committee agendas for this week. Ms. Long.
All right, this will be quick. So following a study session today, there is a closed session. Just FYI, I think the link says it will start at 1. So whenever we finish and get there. And then at 3 p.m. is the council meeting. So that's it for this week.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Long? Well, Mr. Taylor, we're still on item number 3, review of committee agendas for the week. And I think this would be a good time to walk through. I have it on my agenda for now. Do you want to wait, Ms. Murray? We wanted to make sure that council had an opportunity to really understand the body of work that's in front of council between now and the end of the year. So at the end of our study session packet, as always, there's the expanded schedule and what we call the legislative hopper. We often don't dwell on this. It's for members' reference. But as we approach the end of the year here, we need members to have a good understanding of the large body of work that's in front of our staff and the council, so we can all manage our time and energy appropriately. So, Mr. Taylor, if you could go through that, I would appreciate it.
Be happy to, Mr. Chair. I apologize for not being in person today. I'm mobility limited at the moment, so I'm working remotely. What I wanted to note for you first of all, there is materials in your packet in addition to that Hopper document. It's at the section of chair's topics on your agenda. So there's a document that's within your packet that I'd like to refer to as I walk through this information. So I'd ask the Zoom coordinator if they could pull it up. So the approach here is I just like to talk about the council's legislative workload for the remainder of 2024 as it's currently known. Excluding this afternoon's meeting, the council has 7 regular meetings left for the year. So you only have a handful of meetings left. You also have 2 special in-district meetings planned to meet charter requirements. Right now, moving through the system, there's approximately 40 legislative proposals, and that excludes appointment resolutions. So these are other types of resolutions and ordinances. Those are all in the queue currently. They're moving through the system with the expectation that the council will consider those items this year. So I'm going to pause for a second because I heard Mr. Weinsberry ask if it's got the right proposal or the right document up. That's it. Thank you so much. So with the document before you kind of lays out those proposals that I'm speaking to, the 40 that are moving through the system. With that many proposals moving through the system, your remaining capacity legislatively for the year is pretty limited. There's not much resource or capacity left either with staff or with council meeting times or committee times. So it's important that members recognize that and give staff appropriate guidance. Items that aren't considered to be time sensitive at this point, staff is looking at moving some of those items into the first quarter of 2025, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. I think members are aware that there's some major legislative work that remains for the year. That includes, of course, the mid-biennium budget adjustment that the council is going to pick up and begin deliberations on next week in the committee of the whole. believe all the members are aware of the comprehensive plan periodic update that's working its way through the system with its first committee meeting or hearing next week. The behavioral health improvement plan is moving through the system with hearings being scheduled for that particular item. Of course, you're all familiar with the critical areas update that's going through the system. There's a number of significant ARPA funding releases, and there's a potential shoreline master program amendment that could be fairly substantial. Also, in case you're wondering, there are some more sheriff service agreements that still have to make it through the system. Those are fairly light lifts, but there's still quite a few of them left. So with that as the stage kind of set here, I'm just, Chair, with your permission, I'd just like to walk through by council hearing date, kind of the blocks of items. I think that might be a way to look at this for the council, if that approach works. Okay, I'll just use the document that's on the screen to do that, if that works.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So this table begins with your meeting next week. It doesn't show the meeting this afternoon, but next week we've got a block, or you have a block of the sheriff's service agreements that are noted, as well as the salary classification plan and council organizational chart that were discussed at rules earlier and forwarded out of rules this morning. So that's your block for November 5th. November 12th, only one item is currently scheduled for council final consideration on that date. That's the critical area package. We're expecting that there's going to be a number of amendments to that critical area proposal. There might be a half a dozen or more. So while only one item is noted for November 12th, the item is substantive and will require considerable council time at the meeting. In the past, critical area ordinance revisions have always drawn interest from the public. So I wouldn't be surprised if you have a higher than typical public participation in your meeting. Although we did not see that at the committee level, it's still quite possible at the final council that you may have folks turn out. One thing to note about this November 12th council meeting is that the proposal itself, while the council is expected to consider, half a dozen or so amendments, the proposal itself will need to be continued until December. The reason for that is the council or the county has to comply with the State Environmental Policy Act. With this proposal, that includes the final publication of what's referred to as a final environmental impact statement. That's not going to occur until late November. So consequently, council action, final action can't occur until early December. So this item will be continued likely until December 3rd, but the council will hopefully be able to consider any amendments that are offered up on the 12th. November 19th, fairly full right now with proposals, legislation related to the budget. So all the items that you see here, with one exception, are related to the mid-biennium budget adjustment. I'm not going to run through those. I think you can see them fairly clearly, what's occurring or what's planned currently for November the 19th. November 26th is a heavy day. That's the day where the council is expected to take final action on the mid-biennium budget adjustment, along with a number of items of companion legislation related to the budget, such as the ad valorums for the general fund and the road fund. Also being planned, just for time management reasons, to get these things done this year, are a number of sheriff service agreements. Again, as you saw in rules this morning, those are fairly light lifts. They aren't time intensive items, but there's quite a few of them on the 26th. Go ahead and move to the next page if you could. December 3rd. That day is the date that we're expecting the critical area package to be continued to from the November 12th meeting. December 3rd will also be the first hearing for final consideration before the council on the comprehensive plan update and CFP update. And there are a couple of other items of legislation that are proposed for that date as well. December the 10th, you'll see the comprehensive plan update and CFP update listed again on that date. Staff is expecting that the council may very well continue the comprehensive plan from December 3rd to December 10th. That'll be dependent upon the number of amendments that are offered, the interest, of course, by the council, feedback that you may receive from the public on December 3rd. But right now, we're planning for a continuation to December the 10th. There's also a number of other items that are in the works or already in the system. Some asks to the state legislature, the 2025 legislative agenda, manifest error proposal related to property tax adjustments, and a fireworks regulatory change that one of the members has asked for. You can see on this calendar your two special council meetings in districts, December 12th and December 16th, and then your final meeting of the year, December 17th. And you can see the items that are currently identified for that date. At the bottom of this table, you see a number of items that are shown in kind of a yellow or a beige highlight. I think there's 6 items shown there. All of these items need to be scheduled this year, but we haven't plugged in into a specific date yet. And that's because we haven't received the proposals formally yet, with one exception, and there's some additional discussion needed. So one item you see at the top, performance audit report, interlocal agreement. So performance audit under the charter is required to present the findings of their report within 90 days at a evening meeting of the council. In this instance, the audit report on interlocal agreements is due for report out, and so that needs to be scheduled before the end of the year. I mentioned earlier that there's a number of important ARPA funding releases. Those are identified here on this list. Those releases are expected to occur in early December in order to allow for the associated contracting to occur before the end of the year to obligate the funds before December 31, 2024. And then the last item is at the bottom of the list, the shoreline limited amendment for critical area ordinance integration. That was just received in the office. It's under review. It's expected that that will be acted upon this year if possible. Go ahead and move to the next page, please. What's left are items that have come in, they've been reviewed, or they're in the process of being reviewed. But staff is expecting the items to be moved to the first quarter of 2025. So you'll see a number of franchises, vacation proposal, an implementation package for the comprehensive plan. This is a development regulation implementation package. A community plan updates for consistency with the comprehensive plan. Those just were recently received in the office. And then your annual appointments to standing and select committees and external boards and commissions. Those always occur in January when the new council and leadership are constituted. So chair and council members, that's kind of a snapshot for the remainder of the year. You're going to be busy. You're going to end the year with a heavy load as you go into 2025. So I'd be happy to answer any questions or take feedback at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor, for walking through that. We did that first so that members have a good understanding of the workload in front of us between now and the end of the year. Also to help us manage our collective time and expectations of ourselves and our staff. This has also been communicated to the executive and executive departments that if something is not transmitted to the council already, it very well may not be taken up by this year's council simply due to staff capacity and council capacity to facilitate consideration. So we're trying to manage expectations of ourselves and manage expectations of the executive and executive departments. Questions or comments about the workload that's in front of us? Councilor Hitchin.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Taylor, for setting this up so we could look out to the end of this year. The 4 funding release proposals Do we have any assurance that we're gonna get them in enough time to be able, since they're ARPA related? That's concerning.
Councilmember, your staff is monitoring, the council staff is monitoring the status of those proposals. I was, given notice this morning that at least 2 of them have been uploaded to EDS and they're moving through the system. So based upon the feedback that we've received, at least from the Human Services Department, we are expecting those items to come to the council likely in the next 2 weeks. It's all dependent upon when the executive, of course, transmits, but that's what we're currently expecting and planning for. So with that in mind, the items that would go towards to Human Services Committee would likely need to be considered in late November in order for the council to take those up in early December. Ideally, we would try to provide, the council would try to provide as much time as possible for the departments to complete the contracting with the providers. And so with that in mind, staff would try to complete reviews quickly to enable the council to consider these funding releases at the earliest possible date, ideally early December.
Okay, I'm just gonna set on that one slide we were shown during one of our cows earlier where finance said they thought they could do contracting in 3 weeks and hope that's truly true.
Right.
To answer your question, though, there is one ARPA-related RFP, and that's the digital literacy and equity one. And those do have to be under, as I got from Gary Robinson, under contract by the end of the year.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for raising that. Any other questions or comments about the workload in front of the council between now and the end of the year? Vice Chair Kimball.
I see an item on here that at times has had large attendance in our, I don't know about large, but definitely large feedback, and that is fireworks sales and discharge. And I don't see anything in EDS on that. When do we think that might be in EDS? Because we know that community gets very engaged whenever we discuss that.
So council member, that item has been developed. It hasn't been entered into EDS yet. We do have a member of our staff that's working on that particular item. I don't have a specific date for you as to when it will be loaded to EDS. I'm not certain if the council member sponsor today wishes to speak to it at all, but it is a item that we are actively working on as a council staff. That's why it's on the list.
Okay, I want to be sure when we look at the scheduling of that we have sufficient time for public comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Cruver.
Thank you, Chair. That particular ordinance has nothing to do with any of the firework discharges, specifically streamlining the process for permits for those who are retailers. It has been worked with the fire marshal and risk management in my office to make things easier for them to do their job. So it's nothing to do with the fireworks themselves or the consumer, so to speak.
Well,
Vice Campbell.
Discuss that later too, if you want.
yeah, if the title hasn't been set, we might want to make sure the title is clear to the public.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments about the calendar? Well, Mr. Taylor, thank you for briefing us on all this. There's a ton of work going on with your leadership and the team and members who are leading on these proposals. So thank you for managing it so that we can manage our workload and our energy and give the appropriate attention that's needed for these really important bills that are being considered by the council. So thank you for your good work.
Thank you.
We're going to move to item number 4, which is external boards and commissions updates. Mr. Taylor, back to you.
Thank you. So, council members, there is no activity at the PSRC this week, so I don't have any items to report out on regarding their meetings this week. Thank you.
Thank you. Updates by other members. Councilmember Morel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Puget Sound Regional Council Operations Committee met and went over the budget as we always do. One of the considerations that's moving through is an increase in dues. And so that was chatted about. The original proposal was 2 to 4% increase per year in dues. And I think there was pushback on that, just due to some of the budget restraints that a lot of the jurisdictions are going to run into in 2025. So we're looking at maybe a 1% increase per year, or a 2% per biennial budget. But they're going to get back to us. They're obviously worried about making sure that the reserves are built up so they don't suffer what happened in 2008. But a couple of the members on the op committee said, well, you may have to share that if it does happen, but no one is expecting a recession like that. So that is going to be moved forward. Also, we had a presentation on the Title VI plan, the demographic profile in all areas, plus kind of the policy effects of racial and ethnical diversity within the region. Over the past 20 years, there's been an influx of 1 million people into the region, and 98% of that has been an increase in the BIPOC population. And so what I've requested is from Carol, is to get the Pierce County demographic profile information to us, so we could look at them and figure out where those populations are going, as far as whether they're going in our 23 cities and towns, or whether they're going into unincorporated areas. Also to know a little bit about the demographics pertaining to income levels. So hopefully we'll be getting that. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Morel. Other boards and commission updates? My one update here is the South Sound Housing Affordability Partners Executive Board will be meeting this Friday for its regular monthly board meeting. And there's 3 main discussion items before that board. The first is the draft 2025 Advisory Board Work Plan. The second is a follow-up presentation about how the South Sound Housing Affordability Partners can assist faith-based organizations with religiously owned property, develop that surplus property or unused, underutilized property owned by faith-based organizations for the purposes of affordable housing. There's been some recent incentives provided by the state legislature in this regard, and SHAPE is trying to be useful here in providing a toolkit and some services to support faith-based organizations use underutilized property for this purpose. The final discussion is a broader toolkit that is being designed for member governments of South Sound Housing Affordability Partners about how to support those all member governments to site and build, develop more affordable housing. So that housing toolkit is coming to completion, and again, that'll be discussed at Friday's board meeting. So those are the 3 items before the SHAPE board this Friday. Any other external boards and commission updates? Not seeing any word. Item number 5, discussion of administrative items. Ms. Murray.
Good afternoon, Julie Murray, Chief of Staff. I only have 2 items. The first, I would like to introduce Frederick Langley, who's sitting in the back here in his Seahawks colors, who is our intern helping myself and the performance audit team on our indigent defense modeling, as well as some of our public commenting. So I just want to, he goes by Freddie, but make sure everyone knows him. Do not call security if you see him in the office. And then the second thing, since it just has come up twice this week, if you as members have an interest in adding this into your Outlook, into your calendar, when we came up with the new version of the expanded, it was that we kind of moved from maintaining our Outlook of our scheduling from an Excel base to an Outlook based. And so if you want to quickly just see what's happening that day as we know it, you could do that from your Outlook if you want to add that calendar. I said that to your council assistants a couple weeks ago, but people have asked, and it is cumbersome to try to find expanded, and you can just quickly just sort of go to that day and look. We try to keep it up to date. It's most up to date for when things are being scheduled to be on consent and for final. We update it more weekly to what is going on in the committees because the staff are talking to you and changing the work plan. We generally try to update that consistent with our pre-rule schedule, which happens around Thursday, you know. So if you don't see something on a committee schedule, it may just be we haven't gotten to that yet. But we're pretty much managing it and adding things as things come up, presentations, in district meetings and others. And so it's kind of useful if you want to, and I can happy to show you how to add it and use it. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Freddie, welcome to the team. I'm hearing really good things about the value that you're adding to our important work on the special project that you're assisting on. So welcome and thank you. Any questions for Ms. Murray? We're at item number 6, Chair's Topics, and I screwed up our agenda. We already discussed what we were supposed to talk about. Here, Mr. Taylor did the briefing of our legislative calendar between now and the end of the year, so thank you for that. At today's meeting, just another note, we are anticipated to be joined by a member of the Puyallup Tribal Council this afternoon, so if members have the ability to be in chambers slightly before the time of our meeting to greet our special guests. And also we will have a member of one of our tribal communities be reading our land acknowledgement. So whoever's scheduled to do that, please know that we've made arrangements for our land acknowledgement to be read by a member of a tribal community here. So staff will get with you and help facilitate that. Vice Chair Kimball?
We're having a tribal member lead the acknowledgement.
That's what was requested of me, yes. We can talk afterwards.
Yeah, let's discuss that.
We're at other business, Communications Manager and Public Information Officer updates. Mr. Weinsberry.
Good afternoon, Council. For the record, my name is Jair Weinsberry. I'm the Communications Coordinator with the Pierce County Council. Some great things happening. As mentioned, we do have the Puyallup Tribe Council member coming in, Annette Bryan, who's going to support the Native American and Alaskan Native Heritage Month proclamation that will be read today. Next week, we have the Veterans Day proclamation, and the guests are going to be notified, and we're coordinating that as well. So if there's any names that you'd like to have or any representatives, just send those names and we'll get them invited as well. We do have 4 proclamations left for the rest of the year. Those are the Small Business Saturday, the Reese Across America. We have Human Trafficking Awareness Month. And then we have some other ones for some individuals who are retiring in the community. And again, we're still working on coordinating those. We do have some releases going out later this week for the CDEC public hearing that will be going on for November 4th regarding the comprehensive plan, as well as the second one's about to be for the ILAs that will be covered as well. We have, again, the county legislator is doing fantastic in the community. a lot of opens and a lot of engagement on it. Obviously, we're looking to expand and get more traction with that. But other than that, things are going well in the communications department. Any questions, Mr. Chair?
Any questions for Mr. Weinsberry? I don't see any. Thank you for that update.
Thank you.
The next item is related to comments that we anticipate bringing to the state Supreme Court around the proposed rule on caseload standards for public defense or indigent defense. Ms. Murray, with the support of our staff and our intern, has been leading this for us. We got a briefing last week from our finance department about what we believe the caseload standards would be costing this county alone. There's an update on that matter and a proposed letter for us to send to the state Supreme Court. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our Chief of Staff, Ms. Murray.
Okay, thank you. Again, Julie Murray, Chief of Staff. In your packet is a draft letter to represent the Pierce County Council's comments to the Supreme Court's rules that would impose new indigent defense caseload standards. And just to give you some context, there is both a written comment process, and then there is the opportunity to provide in-person testimony, which currently we're looking at the chair as attending, which will be next week, which is why we asked to change the Select Committee on Homelessness and the Committee of the Whole timing, because it is November 13th in the morning. So this, we can speak to any topic in our written comments, but for purposes of the court has asked for our oral testimony to rebut anything that has been provided, to the court so far. So you have, it's a rather lengthy letter, but it is chock full of good information we think the court needs to know. There is a revision that needs to happen to the letter. I made an error with respect to the number of FTEs in total that the county would need. So if you did not look at, if you printed this off, you may not have that. That's on page 2 at the very top. We did some reassessment of the modeling after the finance presentation, specifically kind of trying to answer that question Councilmember Hitchens asked, which is why the disconnect between our numbers and the WASAC numbers. And so what we believe, and I have Joe here who can supplement this, is kind of an error in the way we looked at one of the components, one of the models of FTE hours per attorney and how that was used. And after doing some verification with some of the authors of the WASAC model, we at council believe that there was an error. And so the numbers do change in the implementation process, but not the final number. We're still going to be in 2028, and this is where my error is in the letter, is by 2028, we would need to add 184 FTEs. Okay. And so one of the versions you may have saw said 92. It's actually 184 total, and that's both attorneys and support staff. It's about even between the two, about 92 attorneys, 92 support staff. But when you look at the terms of the ramp up, we believed in order to meet the actual rule, maybe not the state we would like to be in, but the rule, we would need to add 28 full-time staff at a cost of between 9.8 million and 11.6. That's still significant to Pierce County. That represents all our new unrestricted revenue for that year, both property tax and sales tax. So, it's not as dramatic. I think we were looking at 22 million, but nonetheless, it still has a great impact. And then now that we fixed that error, it's somewhat lower. Overall, by 2028, the staff at the Department of Assigned Counsel would need to triple, not double, as I originally said, triple. So we're wanting to make sure that the court understands that. And then consistent with a lot of other people who have commented, is we're really asking the court to look at what does Washington State need. What the caseload standards do is adopt a national standard from a national study. And it's difficult for us to understand, given that we have had no comments from our public defenders to the court or others to say that we have this big a problem that we would need to triple our staff. And so there's got to be something different that you're hearing from certain jurisdictions and not others that they have a problem. So what is that problem? And I think part of it is we were talking about it also in the letter, it really comes down to resources. You know, do you have the revenue to do this? We are not getting state revenue for this purpose. Do you even have the revenue to do the present state, let alone what would be the new caseload standards? And then also the workforce. Do we even have the workforce? One of the things I think we'll note more in the oral testimony is there's been a significant expansion in indigent defense on the civil side. The state has added almost 250 attorneys. And I think that's part of the reason why you're seeing in other jurisdictions that their ability to attract attorneys to do criminal defense has really been difficult. We're able to continue to keep our workforce. We don't have the turnover others see, but if you're going to triple the need in Pierce County and then every other county, plus adding in the increases the state is doing, do we even have the pipeline to have those people in the workforce? And so what we're trying to emphasize is, you know, we should see what we really need and then build a better plan both on the revenue side and on the workforce side to actually achieve the goal, not just simply say, this is the goal. Because we currently have jurisdictions struggling to meet even the standard we have today. So, we have the draft letter. This is one that I'm actually had said to the chair that I think all of you individually should sign because there is some diversity in terms of perspective. And that I think it would be good for the court to see that all of you as council members agree, rather than just having the chair's signature. So, I put this letter to you, and we obviously can revise it, tweak it, but this is what we're proposing.
Thank you, Ms. Murray. The letter, written testimony is due to the court, end of day on October 31st. So we really want to put our letter to bed and get it out the door actually tomorrow so we can meet the deadline. Asking us to come to agreement and get sign off by noon tomorrow, the 30th. And as Ms. Murray has said, I very much agree. Under most circumstances, the council communicates through its chair, but during extraordinary times, we've indicated that we think it's best for more than one member to express something. And I certainly agree that this is one of those cases. It's very significant to Pierce County. And so I would very much encourage all 7 members to sign, or any member that wishes to sign on, but I would hope all 7 members because of the gravity and seriousness of the issue. With that, what questions do members have or feedback on the draft letter? How about we do this? I will propose, and as always, push back. I will propose that if Ms. Murray does not hear from you, either in person or in email, if she does not hear from you to select out, she's going to add your name to the letter by noon tomorrow. If she does not hear from you, she is going to add your name to the letter. So in order to select yourself out of adding your name and signature to the letter, please send her an email or visit her in person to select yourself out of the letter. Otherwise, she's going to add all 7 members to the letter, or everyone else who doesn't do that. A lot of really great work has gone into this. Thank you to your leadership, Ms. Murray, and the team here who have really bared down on this really complicated issue and really serious issue. I think this really does offer a really thoughtful perspective and really thoughtful feedback. Doesn't just say, no, don't do it. I think it's incredibly thoughtful and productive. Again, please let Ms. Murray know by noon tomorrow if you wish to select out of adding your signature to the letter. Okay. Thank you. Is there any other business by members? Councilmember Denson.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to chat with the council quickly about our upcoming work on the comprehensive plan. Things are getting serious and moving through as we approach the end of the year. So we have several scheduled Community Development and Environment Committee meetings coming up. And we've decided to split these up because we're anticipating a lot of amendments. So on the 4th, next Tuesday, I intend to hear any policy amendments you have for the comprehensive plan and the CFP. So if you're thinking about any policy amendments, please chat with staff, as soon as possible. This week would be great to allow them time to prepare those. So we'll hear those on Tuesday, the 4th. And then on the 18th is when we will focus on our map amendments, any urban growth area amendments that you might want considered. So you've got a little bit of time for that. So focus on policy for next week, then map and UGA amendments for the 18th. There any questions or feedback on that? You can pass that along to any stakeholders as well. If you've got folks that want to testify or are concerned or supportive of any parts of the comprehensive plan.
Any questions for Councilmember Denson? Councilmember Denson, thank you for being clear about how you're organizing the work in committee. I very much hope we can keep the vast majority of the work, if not all the work of the comprehensive plan in committee. It's a good place to do something as detailed as that. So thank you for managing that and being clear about how you wish to have amendments come forward. So again, I heard at the committee meeting on November 4th to have any policy language amendments be considered in committee on November 4th, and then any map amendments the following committee meeting on November 18th.
Yes, that's correct.
Thanks for being clear about that. And as stated, the earlier it can get to staff of the committee, the better. Our staff is incredibly busy, as you could see from the briefing earlier, with the over 40 plus pieces of legislation that's moving through consideration by the council. Our staff is absolutely buried. And so we got to respect their time and focus. So if you wish to bring forward a substantive amendment, the earlier the better. If otherwise, I may not have the capacity to have it considered, quite frankly. Any other questions about that? Okay. Any other business by other members? Ms. Murray or Ms. Long, any other business for council? We do have a study session. This is going to be remote.
Closed session.
Excuse me. We have a closed session, which will be remote. If your calendar is like mine, you're showing multiple items on your calendar for this closed session. Please use the one that says Jair Winesberry. It's a Microsoft Teams meeting with Jair Winesberry's name associated with who set up the meeting. So that's the one of 3 that you should select for our closed session. We're going to begin that at 1 o'clock. It's 12:55 by the clock here in Chambers. We're going to begin that at 1 o'clock. There being no further business before the Pierce County Council in Tuesday's study session, we are adjourned.